Season 8 is just days away from concluding in Photo Finish Live, and I have three foals that are about to start their racing careers for the first time in just a couple of days. And I have a question I think a lot of stable owners have, particularly new stable owners like me. Where the hell do I race these guys? I mean, they have no racing history, and I don't know what distances they should be running at. Hi, I'm Jeffo, also known as Digital Romad on Twitter, and welcome to my latest video. Does history repeat or rhyme? Using Bloodline to gauge a new 2-year-old in Photo Finish Live. As I said, Season 9 is rapidly approaching, and as that happens, I'm going to lose 3 horses, particularly this one, Dr. FOMO, which I have tweeted about a number of times on Twitter. This horse is going to retire with a 47% podium rate for me, and he's got more than 500% ROI in the time that I've owned him. So it's going to be a bittersweet loss seeing this horse retire and go out to breeding. In his place, I have 3 foals that are going to start racing in Season 9. Lady Godiva's Ride, JFK, and Mikasa Sukasa. You can see it's an S-, an A+, and an A. And I can tell, theoretically, what they're going to potentially like based on their preferences. Lady Godiva, not so much. He has not a whole lot of preference stars. But JFK and Mikasa Sukasa have a fairly decent number of stars. So I know that they're going to like left and right tracks respectively. They're both going to like dirt, and JFK is going to theoretically like firm, while Mikasa Sukasa is theoretically going to like soft tracks. But that tells me absolutely nothing about the distances they should be running at. Should they be running at 4 and 5 furlongs? Should they be running 7, 8 furlongs? Should they be running 10, 11, 12 furlongs? I really don't know just by looking at these horses and their preference stars, and it becomes sort of a guessing game when you start racing them. But there is a way to get a bit of a hint as to where you might want to start racing these horses to see how they perform. And the answer is in the blood. Bloodline inside of Photo Finish Live is basically a horse's digital DNA, and history can offer hints about where you should be racing that horse, because it tells you hints about that horse's racing attributes based upon its parents. And it all starts with these 6 attributes. These are all hidden from your horse, but they're visible in the parents of your horse. So we're talking about start speed, stamina finish, heart, and temper. But 4 of those I call the Fab Four because they really speak to distance determinants when it comes to horse racing. So what I mean by that is with start, this is how quick a horse jumps out of the gate as the race begins, and it is the most dominant factor for 4 and 5 furlong races because you want a horse that starts quick. Speed is how quickly that horse gets up to its full pace. And again, this is most effective in short and to a degree middle distance races because you really want that speed quickly. If you're going to be running a 4, 5, 6 furlong race, you really want to see speed jump out and sort of propel that horse forward faster than the competition, obviously, because the race is going to be over relatively quickly. Then you have stamina. You want a horse that doesn't tire easily. If you are looking at middle distance and long distance races, start is not necessarily as important. Speed is important, but stamina really is a key determinant when it comes to middle and long distance races. And then you have finish. This is the horse's ability to drive to that finish line as other horses in the race are beginning to tire and fall off. This really is the most dominant factor when it comes to 11 and 12 furlong races. Now, the thing is, you can use these distance determinants in pairs to determine, where a horse is going to excel. And here's what I mean by that. If you pair a start and speed, then you're talking about a horse that is a sprinter, because again, this is a horse that's going to start quickly and get up to speed fast. And that's really, really important when it comes to these short races, because you want it out of the gate quickly and you want it up to speed quickly because the race is going to be over quickly. So that's those are the 2 most important factors for a sprinter horse is speed and start. Then we have speed and stamina. This is the middle child. This is a horse that's going to get up to speed quickly, but it also has the stamina to run those middle distance races. So, when you're looking at the bloodline and you see strong speed and strong stamina, then you probably have a horse that should do well in middle distance races. And then we have stamina and finish, which I call the Forrest Gump horse because he's a long distance runner. You have a horse that has the stamina to run a long time, but more importantly, he has the finish to really drive through the end of the race as others are beginning to tire around him. And I know what you're thinking, like, yeah, am I just going to pull all this data out of my butt? But it's all right in front of you when you start looking at the horses themselves and you start examining their bloodline. And I'm going to use this horse as an example. This is Can Pork Chop, clearly one of the sort of standouts. He's just an absolute beast in Photo Finish Live. He has 67 starts, but look how many times he's been on the podium. He's always up there for the most part. It's just a really dominant S plus horse. He's got more than $1 million Derby in earnings because he's such a successful horse. And to me, it all goes back to the bloodline and where the stable owner has chosen to run this horse. So let's look at the bloodline. This is Can's parents. I can't pronounce this, Baragos maybe, and K2. When you start combining these sequential attributes, you can begin to see what Can probably is going to show once he retires. Now these are retired horses, obviously his parents, and so you can see what their attributes are. You have no clue what Can's attributes are until he retires, but we can kind of guess at it based upon what the parents have. So here we have dad with S in start and speed, mom has S and S plus. So if you combine those, you're going to get an S and sort of an S plus-ish when it comes to speed. When you move across to speed and stamina together, the middle distance factor, you're going to get an S plus-ish and an S plus. We're basically just combining the two grades and averaging them out. That's not exactly how it always works, but it's sort of close enough to give us a general indication of the internal attributes of the horse we're talking about. And then when you move to long distances, we have an S plus and an S plus, and clearly that is the strongest of the bunch. 2 S pluses is the highest you can get right now in Photo Finish Live. So clearly, Can should be a long distance runner. So let's look at his information, his data, and this is all coming from mjinformatics.com, by the way. And if you're not using MJ Informatics, you absolutely should. It's a fantastic source of data and information on every horse in a race, and you can parse this 1.5 million different ways. But if you look at Can Pork Chop's data on MJ Informatics, you can see clearly that he is a long distance runner, a 10, 11, 12 distance runner. That's where all of his races are happening. That's where all of his big wins are happening. That's where all of his money is happening. It's his best showing, and you can see it here in the win percentage. In these races, he's winning, more than half to more than 3/4 of the races that he's involved in. And if you go to these shorter distances, he's not winning. Now, he's still earning money. He's either, coming in second or third place in these races, but he's not winning them. That's where the real money is. That's why this horse has earned more than $1 million Derby so far. It's because he's winning big races. And he's winning big races at long distances. He's not winning big races at shorter distances, which tell you he is living up to his attribute expectation that he got from his parents. You would expect that he would be a long distance runner based upon the attribute strength that mom and dad showed. So if that's the case, the question becomes, how much of this really is mom and dad? How much of this really is bloodline? And that's what I aim to figure out as season 9 begins, and I start having to put put 3 of my foals to work on the track, and hopefully determine based on their bloodline where they're most likely to succeed. And the one I'll use as an example is Mikasa Sukasa. This is an A grade horse with 7 stars, so it's a fairly decent horse in A grades. I'm happy to run a 7-star horse in A grades, but the question becomes, where am I going to run this horse in terms of distance? Well, let's go look at Mikasa Sukasa's parents. Now here's mom and dad, and again we're going to combine the grades, the 2 grades for each one of these categories, and come up with something that resembles an average. So we have start speeds of S and B, which should give us generally an A, but we have speed for mom and dad at S plus and B plus, which should give us sort of an A plus attribute inside of Mikasa Sukasa. So for me, excuse me, that says we have a horse that's going to have a solid start in A grade races, but he's going to have above grade speed improvement across the early part of a race. When it comes to middle distances, he's going to have sort of an A plus, slash A when it comes to stamina. So, for me, this means he's likely to be an above grade horse when it comes to attaining speed quickly. But the question is, will he waver over middle distances because of his stamina? He has sort of a fall off in stamina going from A plus down to A. And then we move on to long distances where he is an A and an A plus. And to me, that says, okay, this is going to be an average stamina horse, but he's going to have above grade drive to finish this race. So when I combine all of these together, my reading on this horse is that he's going to have a typical start for an A grade horse, but he's going to be at pace a lot faster than most A grade horses. He's going to muddle through the middle distances, but he's really going to drive through and excel at long distances at the finish. So for me, my expectation is I want to run this horse at short distances and long distances to see which one he might excel at. So my first 2 races are going to be a 4 furlong and a 12 furlong, left turning because that is his preference with 3 stars, on dirt because that is clearly his preference with 2.5 stars, and probably in 0% to 40% rain conditions because he really doesn't have a very strong preference in soft. It's theoretically it's a middling preference. We're going to find out, but those are the conditions I want to try to run this horse in to hopefully give me some indication of where he's going to run at distance based upon his bloodline. So for me, the answer to this question is, it really is in the blood. And I'm hoping that, by running Mikasa Sukasa at short distances and long distances, I will get a real feel for, or an early feel, I should say, for where he should be running over the longer term. And with that, I will say see you on the podium. I hope that this video helps you look at distance for foals in a different way, in a useful way, and can help you get up there on the podium with me, hopefully. Talk to you later.